Welcome to Patches for Space, the art behind exploration. It's the place where stories are stitched, symbols are decoded, and space history is told one patch at a time. I'm Dr. Sian Proctor, artist, astronaut, and lifelong explorer, and my goal is to encourage everyone to use their unique space to inspire.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Beth Mund. I'm the Executive Director of Stories of Space and a former NASA Public Affairs Officer. I believe that we can change the way we explore space one story at a time. And I'm a passionate collector of stories within the space community. And I'm so glad to be with you, Sian, again for this incredible episode. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Together we're inviting you, the audience, into this powerful world of space patches and the art and design and identity, and in particular, the mission of what is being told in these patches, and just thinking about the culture behind that.
And for this episode, we are about to endeavor into the Gemini program and how we start seeing astronaut designed mission patches for the first time before the actual mission.
Yes, and if you have been following our podcast, then you know that we started with the NASA insignia, and then we went into the Mercury patches, and both of us picked the same patch. Every week we talk about which one's our favorite, and so we agreed with Mercury, and now we're on to Gemini, and we'll see what our favorite patches are. So welcome to Patches for Space.
Here we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring up this. It's the mission patch to start us off. I think it's absolutely stunning. I really love it. So let's go ahead and showcase for everyone the Gemini patch. Here we are. Let's see.
Okay, and while you're bringing it up, I definitely have this question because, we looked at the Mercury program, now we're looking at the Gemini or Gemini. Like, I want to start off by talking about how do you pronounce this? Because there's the constellation Gemini, but I've also heard this pronounced Gemini. And so, Beth, what's going on with the pronunciation here?
Right. Well, I've always heard it Gemini, and that's just where I land. So when I reference it, I'm going to say Gemini, but Gemini or Gemini, both are correct. And this is a perfect program from 1965 to 1966. Project Gemini followed, as you mentioned, Sian, Project Mercury, which was, can we as humans get into space and survive? And Project Mercury showed us that. And that was a series of efforts from solo astronauts. So just all of Mercury was basically astronauts who were very, very brave and doing these flights and orbital flights and launches really for the first time. And then after those successful missions, we move into Project Gemini.
Yeah, and when you talk about Gemini versus Gemini, I've always been a little bit confused about that because I'm like, well, I grew up with Gemini, the
Yeah.
twins, right?
Yeah.
And so when I've heard people refer to it as Gemini, I'm like, really? Okay. And so part of me, but I'd heard there was and I don't know if this is fact or not, but there was a rumor that NASA didn't want it to be confused with astrology. And so they said it's Gemini and not Gemini, even though it's two and twins. I don't know. You said you've always heard it as Gemini, and I'm like,
I have.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think there's a strong argument there to be made that there were two astronauts in the capsule doing the exploration. So it's very fair to say either one. And, NASA throughout the years, one of the things I find interesting, Sian, this is just a pet peeve. There's a lot of people that don't even know how to pronounce NASA. it depending
Oh,
where you're from. Seriously.
yeah.
And so every now and then I hesitate to correct people, but there is a proper way to say NASA. And I don't, it depends where you're from, but some people say NASAR with a heavy NASAR, and some people say NASA or something. And I'm always like, okay. And I just, but Gemini, either one's fine. So when I get to this, I think of the twins because this is very much two dual focused, two people now in a capsule and doing firsts once again. So Mercury was a series of firsts, and now we're going to put two people in the capsule for a number of reasons. We have, I mean, always, you can attest to this, more is better in space, right?
No, I totally agree. And when I think about, growing up, the constellation Gemini was something that I would like kind of try to find in the night sky. And, when we're thinking about the naming of this program and this patch, this beautifully designed patch, I think for a lot of people, the whole idea of like the logic of ramping up, 0 people in space, 1 person in space, 2 people in space, where are we going next? Apollo, 3 people. Like it's been this amazing like progression, particularly getting up to the shuttle, the heyday when you were flying, 7 astronauts in the
Yes.
shuttle.
Yeah.
And yeah, which I'm just like, that just blows me away. But one of the things that we're going to talk about is, when you go from the Mercury program to the see, I'm used to saying Gemini.
You
Gemini.
can. You can.
No, it's funny because I prefer Gemini, but I'm always like, well, let's throw this to the audience. Is
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
Gemini or is it Gemini? How did you learn to say this program, this NASA program? So share that with us. But what I was going to say is that the size of the capsule, right? You got to put 2 people in. And now, and when I look at these capsules, and I think about the one that I flew to space in, the Dragon capsule, I'm like, that was luxury.
Yes.
I don't know. We're going to talk about how this is longer duration space flight, and I was in a crew of 4, 1 of 4 for 3 days. But these guys are stuffed in there.
Oh, yeah. And let's be fair, okay? I think Sian, because we've seen each other plenty of times and worked together and we've been on some analogs, I think we're almost the equal height or close.
Yeah.
So I cannot imagine when I saw you launch in that beautiful SpaceX capsule, I was like, that is luxury. I totally agree because, well, shuttle is also luxury in my opinion because it's just so inside vast but I can't imagine that close. I think the equivalent to like a Mercury capsule or Gemini was basically a Soyuz, just super, just compacted and tight, and even all your stuff is like literally on top of you. And sometimes when they return to Earth, they're bringing everything home, and it's like the cargo bags are right in front of your nose, like right there, right under the controls or around you. And sometimes your cargo literally helps you land because it's got some padding and some soft
No,
substance for you to just tuck in. And not for me. I don't know. I don't know. If I had to, I had to. But you're right. So Mercury now we've got, and these test pilots, as you know, are a lot perhaps shorter. Like average height was 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah.
And that was pretty tall. So they're used to being in tight quarters, piloting aircraft, being test pilots. And so for them to kind of squeeze in was part of the job.
Well, we had a saying with Inspiration 4, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And and we were on the luxury side in the Dragon capsule. So that was some serious, like, you got to be buddy. And now you got to, you're not necessarily picking who you're going to space with. So that whole idea of now there's 2. And you got to really kind of get along because, it's a tight space.
Right. So shall we jump into a little history of the program here?
Yes.
We've gone from just making sure we can survive and thrive. Like all of Mercury was just How are we going to do it? And all kinds of questions, Sian, which I find fascinating. We didn't necessarily get to in that episode beyond, but things like, can you swallow? Can you drink something? Are you going to be okay? Like, people literally did not know how human beings were going to be. And even though they've sent dogs and they had monkeys and they did survive most of them. And so this was really a question of how are humans going to be in space? So we've evolved now beyond that. And so we're going to bring 2 humans into the Gemini program, and we're going to start doing more first. So through Mercury, it was get to space and do orbital flights around the Earth and see how it goes. And you know who my favorite was? Gordon Cooper, who did the most at the end of the program. And he was the furthest, at the time, astronaut doing all those orbital flights. Now we're going to look at, thanks to Gordo, we're going to look at how long can we push a human in space. So we're going to look at long duration human space flight. And we're going to look at how would it be possible to rendezvous? Now, why would we want to ask that question? Because we're leading up to Apollo. So as Mercury sets the stage for Gemini, now Gemini is going to set the stage for Apollo. We're going to try to dock with another spacecraft, and we're going to take this huge, amazing next step and see if we can actually do an EVA, or extra vehicle activity. And we're going to see how the human body performs under stress. Now, this is a long checklist of firsts for the Gemini program. And so now that I've kind of put out kind of where we're going and what's happening in the Gemini program, I'm going to bring up the patches, and we'll now step into the artwork and the beauty of these beautiful patches. And I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, I gotta say, what they, like you were saying, the Mercury program was like, can we go out there and just survive? But when you look at what they did in Gemini, it blows me away, the things that they're trying to tackle, because it's all about preparing for the moon. But you don't think logistically, oh yeah, well, we got to figure out how to dock, and we've got to figure out how to do an EVA, and we've got to figure out how to do all these things. And so when I started looking more at what was going on through Gemini, particularly through these patches, I became super inspired, because there were so many. The Mercury had a lot of firsts, but these are first on a much more technical level, and that to me was just wow, and to think about, they did 10 of these missions in Gemini, and technically 12, but the first 2 don't count because they were uncrewed, and so that's why the first Gemini mission is Gemini 3. But yeah, sorry, you brought up the patches and you took them down, but yeah, I can talk a little bit about.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to see you and hear you talk, and thank you for walking us through. Yes, some people, don't be confused. Thank you for walking us through why we're getting those numbers and the patches that reflect. And so now I do want to mention that now we're starting to design patches, whereas before the mission would occur and then they'd go back to, okay, how do we capture this patch, or now what should that look like? And this is a little more proactive and intentional. So we're taking big firsts all around here with Gemini. So now I'll go back and we can look at these beautiful series that are completely different now from what we saw with Mercury. I think they're gorgeous, and they're very, very different. Like, they all have a different look. So let's take a look. Here they are.
I love the variety here. And if we're, for you watching this, the upper left that's Gemini 3. Is that upper left one, which is interesting because it doesn't actually say that. You'll notice that some of them have the number and some don't. And that was one thing where I was like, oh, that's interesting. But and the fact that some of them have the names and some of them don't. And so
right.
To me, that was another interesting thing. But
Yeah.
This is when we're starting to get into, and it was your guy Cooper there who said, I want a mission patch, because of the first Gemini patch where they have the Molly Brown, there was controversy about naming the spacecraft. And NASA was like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, Gordon Cooper wanted to capture the spirit of pioneer and being a pioneer in space, just like we were when we first started the United States. So that wagon is that signification there, which I love, of course. And I love those colors. I really love how it stands out. And when you see that, though, you don't think space at all.
No, you don't. And that's what's so interesting. Do you put the capsule in? Do you see space or not? When you look at Gemini 3, this one, you see the capsule, you see the name, and the splashdown, it's in the water, which is interesting. But again, that was kind of this like tongue-in-cheek thing that they did for Grissom based on his Mercury flight and losing that capsule. And so then,
Yeah.
yeah, right. And so, but it has space in it, but it's not like, it's really interesting because it's not one where you think of outer space. You think of really about the splashdown with this patch.
And the tragedy of what, I mean, it was really very hairy what happened. And so, is there a curse when you name the capsule, or is that something maybe not wanting to do in the future?
No, well, that's what was definitely like, no, we're not going to do this. And, from the space history side, though, one of the nuggets about, this flight, this Gemini 3 flight, is that when you think about mission control and where it's located, Beth, can you tell us about that, a little bit of that history?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'd love to. I'm going to stop sharing and we'll come back to the patches so we can see one another here. But there is a historic mission control that is started, well, in at the Johnson Space Center, but really, but depending on your orbit, you're always in contact with people on Earth at different stations. And Sian, I know your father worked at one of those stations, and that's a whole part of your foundational story. And I can't wait for you to step in and share more of that with us if you'd like. So I think when it comes to historic mission control, the reason why, well, there's a whole story I can go into why, the Johnson Space Center is the home for human spaceflight. And it's number one because at the time, President Lyndon B. Johnson wanted it to be in Texas, truly. And so Houston was away from the coast. And while you want your operations and your launch centers coastal, obviously, so that you have that trajectory so you can get up into space safely, you can splash down over the ocean as the Earth rotates, so many reasons why you want a coastal launch. But when it came to hurricanes and other things that would impede a launch mission control center that would put it under risk, they move it inland to Houston, to Johnson Space Center. So that's historic mission control. And this is also a place where so much history happened. And Sian, if I could just do a quick little note, it is also historic mission control where I got the proposal of a lifetime from my NASA colleague who is now my 20-year husband. So it was in historic mission control that we started our lives. So it's a very special place for me. It is now called the Chris Kraft Mission Control Center, named after an amazing man. And you can read all about it. We'll do it in another episode, I'm sure. I can put it in the show notes. But yeah, it's where the people who supported these missions, so there's two people in the capsule, but as you know, Sian, there's hundreds of millions of people who are on the ground supporting the mission. They're here at this mission control center, and it's like fortified, it is super solid, and it is the place where the astronauts would come to also train and practice. And then we would step into this role where one of the astronauts would become what they would call the CAPCOM, capsule communicator, which is still, by the way, a title that we hold today, even though we've had shuttles which have no capsule, and now we're kind of back at capsules, ironically, but the CAPSCOM, capsule communicator, is two things. He or she is usually a previously flown astronaut so that they know what those folks in the capsule are experiencing. They know. And number two, it is the only person in the whole mission control that can speak directly to the astronauts on board, Capcom. Because if you heard everyone else busy in mission control, there's no way that person or persons in space can take all that input in. So there's just one person designated to relay and speak to the team inside the astronaut team, and that's Capcom. And again, that person is on the mission 24/7 at Mission Control in Houston.
Yeah, and time-wise speaking, when we're going through the formation of NASA, through the Mercury program, everything was like really at Kennedy. And then Kennedy's assassination, and Johnson becoming president, right? That's when we start seeing the shift where everything that the mission control is created and moved to Johnson. Well, Houston.
Yes.
It's Johnson Space Center now. And what's interesting is that this first Gemini mission that's crewed is the last time that mission control is at Kennedy. And then all the other ones are from then on, historically, have shifted and are at Johnson Space Center.
Isn't that cool? And
It
now,
is.
when you think of mission control and you're hearing that countdown, you are hearing Kennedy Space Center until whatever is being launched reaches launch orbit, and then
Yes.
it does shift to Johnson Space Center. So when you're hearing that countdown, you're hearing the voice over the loudspeaker, the public affairs officer telling you 3, 2, 1, that's Kennedy. And there's so many reasons for that, and it's a good reason. But you're right. Then everything shifts now to Houston. Once you're up in the air, the minute you launch and you hit go for launch, things transfer to Houston for all the reasons we mentioned. Sian, tell us what your dad did in Guam when he was helping, in a way, mission control.
Yeah, the tracking station. So, he was a technician. So, when you're going around the Earth, that you've got all these tracking stations that are going to pick you up along the way. And so Guam was one of those really important tracking systems. And so my dad was one of the technicians that worked there as a contractor to the Bendix Corporation. And and so it's kind of like this exciting time, which we'll get more into when we get into the Apollo missions.
Yes.
That's when we were on Guam, was for those Apollo missions. But I just think that that distinction between having the launch control at Kennedy, because you're right, even for us, launch control is there at Kennedy Space Center. But then now on the commercial side, SpaceX has its own mission control that can take over, once the rocket lifts off, similar to Johnson Space Center. And so I think a lot of people don't know that you have these two kind of like control centers, and that there's a different role for each of them.
Yeah, exactly. And where's SpaceX? It's in Harlingen, Texas?
It's in California.
California,
California,
that's right.
California.
Mission Control in their California headquarters. And that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. And I love when they get to see, that's one of the first things I noticed is how the teams were right there cheering on, watching Mission Control. And I think that's the way it should be. I mean, the whole world watched these missions.
Yes.
And we'll get into that too in future episodes. So that was something that, again, is another historic first. Like, you're going to put missions. I mean, everyone's knowing that we're launching, and they know now who these astronauts are and how they're getting assigned to their missions. But the details, and then we'll talk a little later, especially with Apollo, because there were some, as these durations get longer, the public wants to know, well, what are they doing up there? And what's going on, and how are they doing these rendezvous, and what's a rendezvous, and is this something we can hear or listen in or see or observe? Or so people are becoming more interested, and the cameras and the broadcasts are going to be more and more invited in so that the public can watch and can be a part of it, even in that historic mission control. Because by the way, which has since been restored. Like that is a national historic landmark that you can
Yeah.
go to and still see in its original form. They redid the consoles and they've looked at the buttons and they've replaced and cleaned as much as possible, and it stays that way, hopefully indefinitely.
I know, and I love it. And so when you're thinking about the storytelling through these patches and all of the things that are happening on the background, right? We're moving mission control and we're trying these new technical things as we're building out the program. And I just this first Gemini patch, I'm kind of like, eh. I mean, I can see the history there, but for me, I think I kind of like it when they actually put the mission number on there. And so these
Yeah.
two patches are pretty interesting in fact that, it's got the names of, again, the astronauts that are flying them, and really interesting designs with the capsules. But it's not until, Gemini 5, I don't have my glasses on. I'm like,
Yeah, this one.
yeah, which
Like
is the
Cooper,
Cooper one.
Conrad.
And Cooper,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, nothing, like you said, nothing in this patch says space.
I know.
Nothing. They didn't
Well,
even
neither
put
does
like
seven.
stars on there. They didn't make it even black background. They didn't put.
No.
It's so interesting that this was the first patch designed by an astronaut specifically before the mission.
Exactly. And you would never know that this was this first, they've gone the farthest. They spent 7 days in space. They made a record. And again, yeah, I think it's really missing the space accent, the space theme. And so is it pioneering because it's the first? Now that I can get on board with. That's something that I guess makes sense. You're going
Yeah.
further, you're going to explore. But that doesn't, if I was a child and I saw this, and I had no familiarity with the Gemini program, I would have no idea that that's what this all references. So I think both of us, I can almost predict that this is not going to be the one we pick. And but you're right.
Although, I just gotta say, there's this weird little twist of history of like what we're looking at there isn't the one that was originally designed or suggested. There's fabric that was put to cover up some words.
Oh, that's
And
right. That's
that's
right.
right. Do
That's
you want
right.
to tell us what Cooper wanted there?
Can we? Was it?
Yeah, it says
Um,
he put on, and again, it goes to the mission, but it read 8 days or bust.
Dust.
You know?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just real. I mean, that's why he's my favorite, Sian, because he would just be like, "No, put it on there. Like we're going or we're breaking." And NASA's like, "No, we're not saying that." And then you have like, the complete opposite where, you've got Gemini 3. And you've got Gus Grissom, and he's like, no, put it on there. I'm bold, I'm brave. And then look what happens. You have a technicality. Now, to be fair, poor Gus, there's so many other things that have failed in the Gemini program. It's not just his mission. Most of these missions because they're firsts, and we have to remember that, because they're firsts, there's a lot of risk and there's lots of things that can go wrong, and some of them do. Some do. Some are very harrowing and they barely made it back. And this is going to repeat in the Apollo missions. But again, that's why NASA chose test pilots. You got to stay calm. You got to do the mission. You got to work the problem. You got to be innovative, work with the team on the ground, all these things, none of which really is reflective in these patches, except a couple. There's a couple here. Now,
No,
if you
but
want to,
there are.
yeah, so let's look at 7. I think 7 is very similar to 5, and it's the one here with the torch and the
Yes.
Roman numerals. And if you didn't know that that's the capsule to the left of that flame, you
I
would
would think
say,
it was the Olympics.
what is
I'm like,
this?
it's the torch they run for, to light
Right.
the Olympic
Right.
games. Yeah.
And no names on this.
No
No names at all.
names. That's what's
Interesting.
fascinating is, out of the Gemini program, there were three patches out of the 10 that they didn't list the astronaut names.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow. I don't know the story behind why the astronauts didn't want that or, but I found that fascinating.
I wonder if they felt the mission was above their, and I wonder also, Cyan, if they've already had their, I don't want to say fame, but recognition of their names on previous patches or patches to come or missions to come. So if their ego took a back seat, or if they maybe said, you know what, this is all about the rendezvous, or this is all about the orbit, or this is all about trying to, spend 2 hours, not making our mark and making sure we're going to hit the places in space we need to be at the time. This is all, that's what this mission represents, not the humans doing it. And so I wonder, I would love to be a fly on the wall and hear some of those and hear how those conversations went when they designed the patch, and if they were like, yeah, that represents this mission and our names don't.
Yeah, right. I don't know. But what's interesting about seven is that it actually launched before six. But they were a rendezvous mission. And so I really love six. I love the fact that it's six, it's a six-sided hexagon, which is
Ah,
so cool that they kind of
yeah.
like played with that, right? And then they're showing that kind of like spacecraft and the rendezvous, and it's a cool design right there.
I didn't see the number six in the design until I really looked close. It just didn't catch my eye until I really saw it.
Yep.
And I had needed to look at it for some time. And I'm like, there's so much symbolism going on in here. And you've got the stars, the capsule, as you said, and this rendezvous again. So they're going to be one of the first astronauts to rendezvous with another spacecraft. So totally symbolic, very significant, very risky. And I also like the balance of this one, that it's got the name of the mission and the names, but they're subtle. They're not screaming at you, they blend, and then you're really looking at the action and the activity that's happening on this mission and what their goal is. So I think this is such a great representative patch. I really like this one.
Me too. And that's six, and then there's a six, and then there's another six. Not that I'm going to go there, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
there is there. The capsule, and then the stars. I mean, that's Orion. If correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of like a little like Orion there, in that corner with the three
Yeah.
stars for Orion's belt, and then it's just super cool, the way that there's so much symbolism in there.
I
And
like
so,
it.
yeah, and Gemini 6 rendezvoused with 7, and 7 launched first because 7 was a longer mission. But again, we're looking at that 7, and you would never know it had anything to do with 6.
Right. That's true. This is a
Yeah.
standalone, but yet I like that it's got movement and fluidity, and it's referencing or hinting towards the rendezvous. So I think it's one of the patches in all of these that is capturing, and I think there's two others one other that really captures what's happening in this mission. Where the others, and if I can point out a couple, like let's talk about the Armstrong Scott mission. What is happening? You don't really know. You know who's on it and you know the number, but what's going on? And then, you've got some of the other ones without any names, and it alludes to or hints towards orbit. We've got one that clearly is showing you the astronaut outside the capsule on this historic spacewalk, Gemini 9. Huge. And you would think that for that you'd want to put your name to that. But again, no
Yep.
names. No names for the trying to do the spacewalk. Very interesting. Then you've got Gemini 10, this big blue with the X, and it's again John Young, Michael Collins, who will be very prevalent in Apollo missions, and they're here trying to, achieve this spacecraft and do these orbits and rendezvous. So that's again, that has motion and it's got a lot going on there, but I like the contrast. I like that patch is coming out of the circle as well. I like the shapes of these patches. We're getting a little more
Creative.
brave with
Yeah.
things that are coming off the patch and speaking through the patch. And then I'll let you take the last two.
Yeah, well, I just want to say that, I really like the fact that 9 is a unique shape. That it's that elongated shield-like shape, and the astronaut spacewalk is really subtle in that, and there's an elegance to it to some extent, and the same with 10, but boy, when you get into 11 and 12, they're just beautifully designed patches, especially for me, when I think of the 11, again, I immediately see Star Trek. I don't know if
Do
anybody
you?
else does.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a little bit of that Star Trek shield kind of, a different shape, not the circle. And then you've got the astronaut spacewalk. It's clearly there. I love the fact, like, this is the only one that actually has the Earth in it. I mean, the first one has water representing the splashdown, but this one is so cool, the way that they put the 11 coming out of the Earth like that, and then showing the umbilical cord for the spacewalk, just kind of part of the trajectory, and it's so unique. You just kind of want to zoom in on it.
I love it. Yeah, this one is different. It's classic. It doesn't have like modern typography. It's not saying anymore like this is an experiment or this is something we're going to try to do. It's kind of like we've arrived. Look how bold we are. Look what we're doing here. This is clearly understanding we're coming off the earth. We've got motion, we've got activity. We're going to rendezvous. We're going to do these things that are clearly depicted. You mentioned the earth there, which none of the others have. So I love that. I love the shape of it, by the way, and then the color discipline where it's
Yes.
blues, whites, and they're contrasting. There's no heroic reds or aggressive, like colors. It's kind of like a nice, and I just want to do a little shout out to these stars, which are different than the Gemini 6 stars. They look so classic, mid-century modern,
Yeah.
1950s, 60s, and I love that style. I love it. Sometimes, which I tried to do a little more research on the stars with the 3. And so nothing on a patch is just thrown on there. Everything is symbolic. So if there are 3 stars, there's a meaning behind the 3. Do you know that, Cyan?
I
What
don't.
these stars meant?
I don't know what the stars meant.
Yeah.
Do you?
I've tried to do some research a couple of times. So sometimes it's the crew. If there's 3, the 3 stars represent the crew. If there's 3 objectives, it could be that, like the launch, the rendezvous, the orbit. It could be that. It's hard to say. I don't have any additional information, but I really think that this is a strong, very, like, I would love to wear this patch. It shows you what's going on, what's happening, and it's bold while yet subtle. It's like, well, I think the boldest patch is coming yet. So the next one right next to it, you take that one, Cyan, because there's a lot of art in this patch by not having a lot of art in this patch, right?
It is elegantly designed. Yeah, so we're looking at 12 here, and this is Level and Buzz Aldrin, and there is the symmetry of the color with the yellow and the black and the orange, the names in opposing colors. This is just something that's to me, it's a beautiful, simplistic work of art in the form of a patch. And I love it. I think those colors, what a great combination and choice to bring that black and that yellow and that orange together in such a beautiful way. What do you think about this?
I think it's strong. It's showing up just like seven. It's saying something by not filling the space. Sometimes absence of things say more than trying to fill the space with, the mission and the objectives and all the things. It's balanced, but yet there's a little offset with the level name, with the contrast. I like the yellow against the black.
Oh.
I like how the capsule really comes off the patch. And for something that's going to be embroidered, you think about how this artwork appears in many ways. It's not just the art itself as it's designed. Once it becomes actual materials and the stitching and the embroidering, it's very hard to capture detail. So you almost have to have a bold strength idea that will hold up against how you're going to stitch it. And this is one of those things that just lands so clear and perfectly. And when you can stitch something like this and still have dimension, I'm blown away. I think it's one of the strongest patches in the whole. I think if I had to pick the strongest, like the ones where you would go.
I'm sorry to interrupt. They're knocking on my door.
Oh, go ahead. I'll hold.
Hold on
Yeah.
1 minute. Oh, okay, y'all. I just had to show you. I'm actually in Egypt. That's why I don't have my background behind me. And they brought me fruit and
That's lovely.
and desserts.
Oh, what you got there?
It's really interesting because I don't. Okay, there's a white chocolate heart. And then this looks like one of those meringue. And then I had this earlier and it was really good. It's like a double layer chocolate.
Ooh, that's mine. I want that one.
I'm not quite sure what this is, but it looks good.
Ooh.
This looks like a little pastry cake. And then I tried this also, and it's like almost like a little cinnamon cookie. And yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Very nice. Wow. I would love that.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna snack while we're talking about patches here. I'm just
Yes,
gonna.
please. Well, you know what? It's time for us
Oh.
it's time for us to think about our favorites. You got to
Okay.
have a favorite. So
Okay.
you can keep snacking. If you want me to go first, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a stab at yours. I'm going to take a stab at yours.
Yes, I just
Okay.
wanted to explain it to the audience that instead of us at the same time holding up which one we picked, we're gonna do that. But we're going to predict which one each of us chose, which is hard. Like, you want to go first? You want to try and do?
I'll
me
predict
first?
yours. Yeah. So I'll predict yours, but I won't tell you. Like, don't tell me what you picked yet, and then
No.
we'll unveil
Yeah.
together. Okay.
Yes.
I think that you picked Gemini 9. This one.
Oh.
This one, because I think it's elegant and really bold, like you. I think it's got this kind of like a subtlety, and we talked about it a little bit, but I just think maybe you were drawn to that one, perhaps.
That's really interesting because I'm not going to say whether I or not because
No, you got to pick mine now.
I do love the design, the unique difference in that design. For you, this is tough, but I think because I really think you love, and it's funny because I'm going to go with Gemini 6 because I think that one, it just, for some reason, when you were talking about it, for me, I think it was either 6, 11, or 12. One of those three. I switched back at the last minute. I think I'm gonna go with 6 for you. But when I saw your expression, you kind of were like shocked at that one. So
No, I love 6.
I
I love
know.
6. Are we ready? Are we ready to? I
Oh,
think we're going to
okay,
be
we're gonna do a
surprised.
countdown and
Okay.
hold it up.
All right. And
Right.
I think we might be surprised because on the first episode or one of the earlier episodes, we picked the same patch.
We
We
did.
might do
We
it
did.
again.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready?
Okay, so
Three,
ready? Three, two,
two,
one.
one.
Oh, we picked the same one again, y'all. That's crazy. How?
I
How?
knew it. I
That's
knew it.
hilarious. Okay, I gotta say, I was going back and forth between these
Oh,
two. I even
okay.
printed it out because this one, because I'm such an earth-like person and the colors and the rainbow here, I love the fact that they created a prism and that they were showing all of these beautiful colors, which is my
Yeah.
whole thing about our planet is just a rainbow of colors and it should be celebrated. So it was really hard to not go with this one, but this is just stunning, 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 stunning patch.
Okay. The visualization of orbital mechanics.
Yes,
It's like the apex, it's like the quiet apex to what's coming in Apollo, right? It's got proof that a rendezvous can occur and it's not subtle and it's balanced and it even has that apex shape. It's like we're going, oh, by the way, was it, if I'm correct, it was one of the highest orbital endeavors. So they were going at a new altitude, even higher
yes.
orbit.
Um,
And so that's reflected in the shape again as well. So this one just, there's something about it, it eludes confidence, accomplishment, and balance and shape for me that just all came together in this beautiful patch. And I love when patches are just a little different. You know, it's not round, it's not square, it's not the typical patch. So it all drew to me. I love
yeah,
it. I knew we would.
I
I knew
love
it.
it too. And I love the little astronaut. And it's got the earth in it. It's like, yeah, it was a difficult choice. I was down to two, but in the end, all of those reasons you just said, this is our favorite patch. That's two for two, where we both picked the same patch. Now, for our audience out there, which is your favorite Gemini patch and why? We want you to share that in the comments. We want to hear from you. And oh my goodness, Beth, are we going to keep this streak up? Are we going to keep
Yes.
picking the same patch?
I don't know. Things are about to change. Patches are gonna, this is great. And you know, we can't possibly, because when it comes to some of the future patches we're gonna talk about, and I do wanna invite you to just enjoy these episodes and start looking at some of these beautiful pieces of artwork because we're gonna start to cover shuttle missions. And there's no way we could possibly pick the same one on all these shuttles because there's so many. Now we're gonna get just the odds of like a Vegas odd for us to pick the
Right.
space. The same patch is gonna go way down. But I see why. And if I had to pick a backup, Sian, you were right. Six is it. Six is glorious.
Oh, that was your backup. I should know. See? Yes. Did you guess that this would be my backup? I bet you wouldn't have.
Yeah, I would think that for you. I do. I would. Yes. I love that we picked the same one though, for different and similar reasons. So,
Definitely.
and I love that we picked 11 because again, this is a perfect transition because 11 really sets the stage for
Yes.
what's about to happen in Apollo. And so in our next episode, we're going to talk about the Apollo patches and missions. So you want to join us, come on back. And whether you're just discovering the podcast or you've been following along, go and just enjoy, do some Google searches, have some fun with looking at all kinds of patches. We're starting here, but we're going to explore so many patches. But I really like how we're kind of moving in this order because it's building and it shows you the rich history, not only of space exploration, but of the art and the patches and the stories that are behind them. So thanks for letting me join you again, Sian, on this. I love that we picked the same one again. So let's see where we land with Apollo.
Yeah, and I just want to say to everybody out there, if you are a space patch enthusiast, guess what? we are going to start having guests on our show. And so you can go to the guest form that is in the link there and click on it, fill it out, and we may just have you join us to tell us what your favorite patch is out of your collection. So if you got a space patch collection and you want to come and chat with us about your beautiful space patch collection and which is your favorite patch and why, fill out that form. And yeah, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Sian. See you next time.
Yeah, bye everybody. Patches for Space.